So we'd come down here, and there would just be a chill in the air, and it was gritty. I grew up in the suburbs, and there was just this urban realness to it, and it seemed exciting. And then when I got older, and I was in high school, and we started getting into going to shows and bands, this was just like the ultimate place to take a road trip and drive home at 2 a.m.
That was StreetFoto San Francisco founder Ken Walton. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. Every week on this podcast, you'll hear from photographers, bartenders, writers, and San Franciscans from all walks of life, telling stories, sharing personal histories, and trying to put into words what makes this city so special. We wanted to thank you for all the likes, follows, comments, and shares you guys give us every week, and to let you know that there's another way you can help us out. It's kind of like those pledge drives you hear on public radio stations. Go over to the store page on our website to check out the different levels of support you can give us. Each level gives you different Storied SF merch back in return, including hats, shirts, and some of Michelle Killfeather's photos. Thanks in advance for your generosity. Welcome to episode 35. Ken Walton grew up in Sacramento and always thought of San Francisco as a special place. He moved here to go to law school at Hastings, and the grittiness of the Tenderloin served as a major influence in his street photography years later. Ken founded StreetFoto SF, an international annual photo festival, back in 2016. We recorded this podcast at this summer's festival over at the Harvey Milk Center. Here's Ken.
I actually grew up in Sacramento. I have family roots in San Francisco. My great-grandfather lived here, and my grandfather was raised here as well. So I grew up in Sacramento, though. I always came to San Francisco a lot as a kid. It was always the cool place to come down to. It was the place I always wanted to live. It was the magical city down the road.
I'm not going to try to age you exactly, but when would that have been that you were a kid coming to San Francisco? Like, you can go with decades. It's cool.
Sure, that was the 70s and 80s. We used to take family trips down here. My grandparents had moved to Mill Valley when I was a kid, but actually we used to drive through the city to go back up across the Golden Gate Bridge just to kind of make it a more special experience.
What kind of things could you remember? I mean, besides just the general wonder of a bigger city than Sacramento, what specific things and then just kind of what general feelings did you have about the city?
Sacramento's so much, the weather's so different. So we'd come down here, and there would just be a chill in the air, and it was gritty. I grew up in the suburbs, and there was just this urban realness to it, and it seemed exciting. And then when I got older, and I was in high school, and we started getting into going to shows and bands, this was just like the ultimate place to take a road trip and drive home at 2 a.m. Because the music scene was just fantastic in the 80s, and there was so much going on. It's a very different place then than it is now.
I'm guessing traffic wasn't quite as bad then.
No, I don't.
Getting home to Sacramento, I mean.
No, especially not at 2 a.m. Right. Yeah, I set a record once, hour and 15 minutes.
So you said you came here for shows. What kind of bands and venues especially? Like, were you going to?
Back then, well, in high school, it would usually just be bigger shows at like, God, I'm trying to remember. We'd come down to Berkeley, but what's the one, Civic Center, the Bill Graham? Yeah, I can't remember now who I was seeing back then, but we weren't doing, cooler, smaller places like the Fillmore back then as much. But if somebody would come through, Psychedelic Furs or something like that, I'm not sure where they played, but, bands like that in high school. Yeah. Cool.
And you come down here with your friends, and would you do any other kind of hanging out besides going to shows? Any places you used to go, or?
At that point, I didn't really know anyone down here, so, we weren't exactly crashing at people's houses or anything like that. We sort of come down kind of for a one-night trip, and we just get kind of crazy and go home. So
and drive home, like you said, very fast.
Yeah, right.
When did you kind of get into, did your foray into photography coincide or overlap with coming here as a kid, or?
So, not really, but my dad had a pretty avid photography habit. When I was, 9, 10 years old or something like that, and for quite a few years he had a dark room in the bathroom. Nice. He would seal off all the light, and no one else could go in there for a while. And
well, I was gonna say nice, but also we need to use the bathroom.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember any real conflicts like that, but I had a lot of fun making prints back then. I mean, we developed our own film and made prints, and I was a kid, so it wasn't anything amazing, but like I I knew photography was kind of magic back then. The way you could manipulate it with the exposure times and everything else. I loved that, and I knew it was something I might want to do later. And I took photography classes in junior high and high school. But then later on, I always liked it, but I just wasn't as avid. I didn't have like great gear after my last film, SLR, got stolen somewhere. And then I discovered street photography. I was down here. I was working in the video game industry. I was working at had my own company for a while, and then we got acquired by EA, and was working for them, and left that job, and I was kind of waiting to find my next venture. And I saw this documentary about Vivian Maier. I don't know if you've heard of this one, Finding Vivian Maier. Fantastic documentary.
I haven't seen it, but
Yeah, it's very good. I highly recommend it. It's got a great story along with the doc. But and I just overnight kind of became obsessed with it and knew it was what I wanted to do. So I just couldn't stop reading about it. And I got a better camera, kind of designed for that, and just went down this rabbit hole. And within a year, I knew that I wanted to do something with it that was bigger than just making my own photos and sharing them online, which is just kind of a repetitive cycle, and you're just constantly trying to feed this social media beast and get the likes and everything else. And I wanted to, build something more real with prints on the wall and bring members of the community together. There's all these people who interact online, and they hardly ever see each other. They're in different countries or different parts of the country, and so I started hatching this idea of a festival. And there was one out there at the time in Miami that's still around. It's kind of the oldest surviving street photography festival at this point. I think they're about 7 or 8 years in. And I decided to go out there. I'd been shooting for about a year. I went out there and checked them out and saw what they were doing, and just came back and tried to replicate it and add some new things myself, and just put it together. I'd never really organized anything bigger than a house party at the time. So.
I hear you. So StreetFoto SF is yours.
Yes, I was the founder, and we have a lot of volunteers that help out with all kinds of stuff now. But
When would you say you said your camera got stolen? Like, when in your life, or how long ago was it that like you really got going with photography, and like you said, wanted to make it more than just getting likes?
So I mean, this is just about 5+ years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and just I'd gotten a decent camera again. I was taking a lot of pictures of my daughter when she was really little, and I got a good lens for it, and I put a little money into that, and I was trying to learn more about it. But then street photography just gave me like a real sense of purpose to learn so much about, composition and just all these other things that the light and all the subject matter issues that I hadn't really, you're just taking a picture of your kid. There's so many things you don't really think about. And suddenly when I'm out there on the streets, it's just, that's really 5 years when I became passionate, and have learned almost everything I know since then.
I want to know how long ago you decided to come to San Francisco, and if you want to throw in what drew you here,
right?
Why, because you could have gone probably lots of places, but so what, when you came to San Francisco and why, and then what about street photography? Like what got you to do? Okay. You mentioned some things that you like about it, but it's like, yeah, if you're going from taking photos of your daughter, you're like, oh, that might be interesting. Like if you can expound on that a little bit. Sure. So.
My journey to San Francisco, I kept trying to get down here. It was a place I wanted to live, but ended up, I was in the Army for 2 years after high school. I was a medic, and I really tried to get stationed at the Presidio at the time. They had a big hospital there, but it was impossible for somebody without much seniority to get stationed there. So ended up in college in Southern California. And then back in Sacramento for a couple years after that. I just kept wanting to move here. I kept, feeling this urge to move to this region, and actually really right into the city. And then I applied to some law schools, and I got into Hastings. And it's dropped a bit in the rankings, but at the time that was a top 20 law school. I was really happy to get in, and I was over the moon to get to move down here, and didn't really have many friends who lived right in the city. I knew some people in the Bay Area, so I just lived in student housing right in the Tenderloin my first year. And there's a big building. It's about a 26-story building on McAllister and Leavenworth. Like the street's right in your face in that neighborhood, and it was then too. It's different now. It's maybe worse in some ways, better in other ways, but that area of town has always been really, really gritty and really alive with humanity in all its forms. And I saw that on a daily basis. Then after a year there, I moved to the Mission District, 17th and Guerrero, and it was this is back in the mid '90s, and it was it was starting to turn. But it's just nothing like it is now. It's a completely different neighborhood back then, but it was really fun at that time.
500 Club?
Yeah, I was basically could look right out my bedroom window and look across the street at it, and I loved that. Those were maybe my best San Francisco years at that time. Yeah, it was really, really cool. We used to walk down, just down 16th every day to BART. And then take BART down to the Civic Center station, one stop. And that was a good time to be in the city back then. It was a great era. Yeah, so I was really enchanted with the work that I saw that Vivian Maier had made in that film, and then I started getting online and researching, as much as I could about street photography. You're still green. It's there's not really like a single primer that you can read about it, but I just love the idea of finding everyday situations and making these photographs out of these just split-second moments that are beautiful or hilarious or sad or poignant, that maybe just really capture the essence of humanity. You're going around and you're capturing things like that about humans, and also at the same time you're shedding light on this community that you're in. So you're documenting, what people are like in an era at a certain time in this place, and you're going around in a way and trying to make these situations into artful photographs. And it's really difficult to go up to strangers and just take pictures of them from odd angles and really close to them. Is super challenging, and so I think it's maybe in a lot of ways the most difficult kind of photography, and I like that challenge to it.
Do you think it's? I think obviously it's different. Do you think it's easier or more difficult in this age of, everyone has, not everyone, literally, but more people have cameras now, and people are just taking, there's many more. People are maybe a little more accustomed to having their photo, but then that can cut both ways. Don't take my photo. Right. What are some of those challenges that you're?
I wasn't trying to do it before I started about 5 years ago, so I can't really compare what it was like to the pre-smartphone generation. I wasn't really taking pictures of strangers without permission back then. I think it sort of goes both ways. On the one hand, people are really used to being photographed because there are just camera phones everywhere and there are security cameras everywhere. But at the same time, that also makes people a little more paranoid, because they know that any photograph, if they look foolish or vulnerable, can end up on the internet, could go viral. So people are at the same time pretty resistant. And you do get quite a few people in San Francisco who don't appreciate being photographed, particularly people in vulnerable situations. I tend to avoid that. I tend not to shoot people who are compromised, be it, homeless or mentally ill. I can't say I never do. Sometimes, they're humans too, and they are part of our culture. And if they're doing something interesting, and if the photograph's not just about their compromised situation, then I'll take it. But they tend to be the most resistant to it, and for obvious reasons. It's just they're in a situation where they don't have as much dignity and they don't really have a choice to be how they are. So anyway, I'm not sure if it's better or worse. I think it goes both ways. But when I travel to a place where maybe there isn't as much smartphone penetration, or not everybody, like I've been to Cuba, for instance, no one cares. You could just get as close as you want, take pictures, and they'll just look at you and be like, what are you doing? And maybe smile. And I'm not sure if it was like that here 30 or 40 years ago. Might have been.
Well, another part of it, I was reading the excerpt from, I'm forgetting the guy's name in the book over here on the other side of the wall, but it was something about, David Gibson. Thank you. something about, what street photography is, and it said something about evidence of life. So it doesn't always have to be a human being in your. Is your photography like it doesn't necessarily. Sometimes it's location.
Yeah, I take a pretty broad approach to street photography, and I don't feel like the photographs have to have a human in them. They don't have to be on the street. They could be inside a museum or the beach, and anywhere where there's humans being candid in a public or even a semi-public place, or like David says, just evidence of humanity. Like there's a picture here. It's some sort of a tennis court or something, and there's a glove made out of plastic that's just floating in midair, carried by the wind with a shadow beneath it across. It's a beautiful photograph, and that's a street photograph. It's something that just happened spontaneously, and you caught that moment, so that counts. Yeah, and I like those shots. There's a growing community in this town, and people are making great work, and I've seen just as an art form and as a practice, I've seen it grow by leaps and bounds just over the last 5 years. And I think people who've been into it for longer will say it's grown in even more astonishing ways since they, in say the last 10 or 15 years. So happy to share it.
It's a lot of history also, of people, but also of location of this city that a lot of us love. I'm going to assume that you like it if you're still here, but that's got to feel pretty good to be kind of amplifying that and exhibiting it.
Yeah, it does. There is a long history of street photography in this town too, and we've been able to have some of that featured in the festival. I'd like to get more of the older street photographers involved in future years, but I love the fact that we are helping to kind of preserve and document this art form as it's been created within San Francisco.
That was Ken Walton. To learn more about StreetFoto SF, please check out their website, StreetFoto, and that's photo with an F, not a P.org. Join us next week when we'll hear from legendary punk rocker and vocalist for the Avengers, Penelope Houston. Music for the podcast is by Otis McDonald. Film photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if you want to stay up to date on all the stuff we do. At this point, we've got more than 80 different storytellers, and all the episodes are up on our website, storiedsf.com. While you're over there, please help support this project by making a donation. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the show. Our email is storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.